Hi, and welcome to our video for making prime rib. We're going to be preparing a boneless prime rib, which we will be cooking on a pellet grill and doing the preparations for making the rub will be our first step. Before we get into that, I want to discuss a little bit about what prime rib is and how we went about choosing ours. We have a boneless prime rib, which we picked up at the store. It's about 5 pounds. And one thing you'll notice right away about prime rib is that it's extremely expensive, so you want to get it right. So we're going to give you some pointers on how best to do that, and we're going to be starting with some fresh herbs, which we'll be preparing. We're going to be making a paste rub, which will be going on and will be kept in the refrigerator overnight for marinating in the meat. And then from there we'll go ahead and get into the cooking of the meat on our pellet grill. So let's begin with the herbs and go from there. Go ahead and take this out of the package. I'm going to look the meat over and go ahead and trim any excess fat. You're going to have a membrane of fat on one side, which is going to be kind of a layer of protection that you're going to have in the grill. On the side you're going to find a little bit of excess fat. If you can gather it, you're probably going to want to slice it off. Take a good boning knife and trim away. Any meat that's hanging loose, you want to trim that off as well, because that's just going to burn on the grill. Thick areas of fat such as I have here would be things that you consider as a candidate to trim off. We're using a choice piece of prime rib here today. Beef comes in basically 3 grades. You've got prime, which has the best marbling, some of the best flavor, and you've got choice, which is also an excellent cut of meat as well. It doesn't have quite as much marbling. And then you have perhaps the third grade, which most stores do not stock, but that would be select. That would not be something you normally would be wanting barbecuing. It does not have the marbling or the flavor that you're used to seeing. And watch the knife, it is sharp. Okay, then we're going to coat the prime rib with olive oil. We're using an extra virgin olive oil, and then some coarse ground pepper and kosher salt. Before putting the olive oil on, you want to go ahead and pat the meat down. You do not want to rinse off the meat. That is something some people have recommended in the past, and that should not be done. It is not a safe, clean way to prepare meat. So try to avoid using rinsing of the meat. And take the bag that the meat came in, put it in, keep it out of the way. Alright, then we're going to go ahead and start sprinkling the salt on. Do that with a little bit of elevation above the meat. Don't get too close. Sprinkle liberally. Don't rub it in, pat it in. Be sure to get it on all sides. We're using about a tablespoon of kosher salt and about a tablespoon of coarse ground pepper. If you have a roast over, say, 6 pounds, you may want to increase the amount of that. Alright, we'll do the pepper next. And the reason you use coarse pepper and coarse salt is that that way it sits on the surface longer and has more time to be absorbed into the meat. Where the fine salt, it's very easy to overdo and does not get into the meat as well. do this without sneezing. Okay, so we've got the salt and pepper rubbed in, and we're ready to go ahead and make our paste. Okay, well, we're going to make what's called an herb paste. We're using fresh herbs here. We have sage, we have some thyme, and then we have some rosemary here, all which we purchased earlier today. And we've also got some minced fresh garlic, which we have cut up previously. And we have about a full tablespoon of, well, a quarter cup actually, of fresh olive oil here as well, which we're going to incorporate everything into. So let's get on with that process. I believe in using fresh herbs whenever possible. It makes a big difference in the flavor. And since we're dealing with such a nice piece of meat here, don't want to cut any corners. I have a little bit of a woody stalk here, so I'm going to hold that aside. Going for approximately a tablespoon of each of these herbs. As you can see, I'm not trying to be scientific here. It smells so good when it's fresh. Just a few pulses here. Now, this has a wonderful aroma to it. It's going to add a lot of flavor. This also will make a very good bark or crust on the meat. Very tasty. If you've had much prime rib in the past, you may have shied away from the end cuts. You'll find with this that the end cuts are going to be delicious. You're going to savor those as well. We'll have a full list of the ingredients used here posted with our video, so be sure to check that out. Very simple combination of items here. It's the freshness that makes the difference. I'm going to work this down into the crevices. Once again, be sure to get all the sides. And this does not rub off all the pepper and salt as you might first think. This actually helps it get incorporated as well. Then we're going to take a large Ziploc bag, and we're going to go ahead and slip the meat in. Alright, so we're going to take this bag and we're going to put one hand fully underneath, use the other, open the bag, and slide it on in. Close that up. And before we go another step, we're going to wash our hands so we can handle the outside of the bag cleanly. Get this out of the way. Push as much air as you can out. And then place it in the refrigerator overnight, and we'll come back and visit this again in the morning. Welcome back. It's now New Year's Day here in the wonderful North Carolina mountains, and we're outside prepping the grill and moving forward with getting our meat ready to cook. One of the most important questions I see repeatedly is what type of pellets to use, what type of wood, and so forth. And I'm going to express an opinion here. I'm not going to be selective on any particular manufacturer or product, but I have 3 different pellets lined up here on the table for consideration. We have a $40 bag of pellets, we have a $30 bag of pellets, and we have a $5 bag of pellets. And if you were to look at each of them, you would quickly see that they're very similar. And one thing that each of them talk about extensively in their packaging is they're all using hardwood. Well, it gets confusing to even the experts out there as to what is in a pellet and what are we looking for when we're smoking meat. Obviously you want to be using a hardwood, you want to have something that burns hot, but what are you really getting for the difference in price? So what I have found in my experience in using a pellet grill is that I use a blend of the lower cost pellets and a blend of the higher cost pellets to accomplish much the same thing. And it's just a matter of taste, but I think that if you look into this a little bit further, you'll find that pellets are a lot of marketing with very little hardwood. So our prime rib has just come out of the refrigerator after being seasoned and marinating overnight. We're going to go ahead and put that on the grill. I'm choosing to put it on the grill today while the grill is still cold. One of the reasons for doing that, I find that I get better smoke intake for flavor on the meat when it's cold. It takes a little longer to cook, and therefore the smoke takes to the meat better. Obviously the most of the smoke flavor you find in meat comes from when the meat is at a lower temperature, and so that's why I choose to put mine in the grill when it's cold. You'll find some other cooks who prefer to heat the grill up for 15 minutes or so and put it in there when it's 225 degrees. I think you're missing a lot of opportunity to get better flavor. And I'm going to be using my claws to actually lift the meat, another purpose for having these. And we're also going to be using a couple of pans of water today to keep the moisture content high. As with most pellet grills, they do use a convection type process, so it's important to keep plenty of moisture circulating with that heat. And I'm also going to be using a temperature probe today, which is one of the features of my grill, and we'll be monitoring the temperature that way. The pellets I'm using today, as I mentioned earlier, are a mix. We're using a lighter blend of wood. We're staying away with less hickory, more towards the maple and apple woods, which provide a lighter, fruitier flavor with their smoke. As you can see, we've got the grill inside set up so that we've got 2 canisters of water in the very back to keep the moisture content up, and then we have some foil down to protect for the splashing and dripping. And we're going to go ahead and load the meat up and start our grill. I want to get the temperature probe so that it's at the center of the meat. This is a boneless rib roast, so there's no bone to be touching. We're going to start the grill at 220. We want to be cooking today to about 135 degrees internal temperature, which should bring us in around a medium rare for the prime rib. If you want rare, I shoot it around 125. I prefer a medium rare, so we're going to go for 135. This is about a 5-pound roast, so you can figure about 40 minutes a pound to reach that 135. So we have about 3.5 hours of cook time ahead of us here. Plenty of pellets. And we do have an ambient temperature again in the 40s, so we'll see how that works out. After the first hour, we decided to go ahead and move it up to 250 to move on with the cooking. The first hour is the most important hour of smoking. We're about a little over 2 hours into it, and this is what we have. We've added a couple of sweet potatoes with the sides. Internal temperature is 89. We're going for 135. So I'd say we have about another hour and a half, 2 hours. So here we are about 30 minutes later, and the temperature has gone up to 112. So what we have experienced here is what they call a stall. A stall occurs typically with beef when the moisture of the meat is being drawn out. The temperature stalls, and then as the moisture comes out, the temperature starts rising again. So we're back on schedule for our typical 3.5 hours for this size of meat, and we'll see where we are in about an hour and 15 minutes. We should be getting close. Alright, we've reached temperature here. You can see on the gauge we're at 136, and we have been cooking now for 3 hours and 20 minutes. So we're right on schedule. We'll use our gloves for this. Got some nice color. We're going to take it inside and we're going to tint this and put it in the oven for about a half hour. The oven will be in the off position. We're just using the oven as a convenient place to place it due to the size of our kitchen. Alright, so we've had it in the oven with no temperature for about a half hour. We've got it tinted with foil. We've taken it out here. We're going to go ahead and carve it and see what we got. And you can see it's pretty moist. You can definitely taste the smoke. Good color, nice smoke ring. Great taste. Yep, I would say 235 is about perfect if you want to have medium rare.